Welcome to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio, how to survive hidden healthcare and hospital dangers with author, speaker, and your host, Pat Rulo. Pat has over 20 years experience as a professional public speaker, and for the next hour, she's going to be your healthcare and hospital survival guide. Each week, you will say, "Oh," as Pat exposes and explores little-known hospital hazards, delves into the deep waters of dangerous healthcare practices, picks the brains of her good-looking and influential guests, all guaranteed to keep you and your family safe in today's fragmented healthcare system. The Speak Up and Stay Alive radio program is intended to advance health literacy by making you aware of healthcare and hospital dangers. The program is for informational purposes only and is not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Participating as a program listener, guest, or caller should not be considered medical advice. References to any entity, product, service, website, or source of information should not be considered as an endorsement. And now your host, Pat Rulo.
I can't bear again no more, baby. I got too much pride. But I'll survive.
Hello, I am Pat Rulo, and I'm so happy to hostess this next hour where I will serve you a generous helping of everything you need to know to help you and your loved ones stay safe during any doctor or hospital visit. Who am I? I am you. I am every person who has ever been in a hospital or doctor's office and has received less than acceptable treatment. I am you, the patient who got an infection during a simple outpatient procedure. I am you, the patient whose questions are ignored, who struggles to speak to the doctor as he or she has one foot out the door. I am the missed heart attack, the hospital-acquired infection, the wrong diagnosis, and the unanswered call button. This show is not about pointing a finger at hospitals, doctors, or nurses. It's not about a political agenda or party preferences. It's about you, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. It's about becoming informed of all the hospital hazards, what they are, how and why they happen, and what you can do about them. This show is about empowerment. It's about doing everything you can to stay safe during any and every healthcare encounter. Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio, yes, that's OH, with an exclamation point, will cause you to say, "Oh," as each week we delve into little-known hospital and healthcare dangers. When you understand why something happens, you are better equipped to do something about it and prevent it from happening to you. If enough people begin to speak up, together, each of us can alter the current precarious path of today's unsafe healthcare practices. Oh, today we're going to have more fun than ever. Our guest looks to be in rare form, so we're going to surprise him and ask him to play Dr. Germ's word association. Plus, I have some tidy advice on money laundering, so find your favorite chair, couch, or bed, and enjoy our occasional flashes of merriment. But to get serious for a moment, here's the hospital hazard of the week. Drug interactions. Just a few weeks ago, there was a big news break about grapefruit juice and how it has now been found to interact with many medications. While it has always been problematic with some medications, the list has now grown. This got me to think about how drugs can easily cause unwanted problems during a hospital stay and how miscommunication or just plain oversight can add to the danger. During my mom's hospital stay, she was to be on a low-salt diet because of her congestive heart failure, yet every day the menu would arrive with highly salted items for her to choose from. Or then there were the weeks when she could not swallow properly, so the use of a drinking straw was strictly prohibited. Yet each day a straw would arrive on her meal tray. This made me wonder about grapefruit juice. I don't remember if it was on the patient menu selection, but if it is, it shouldn't be. So let's talk about this for a moment. Grapefruit's culprit chemical does not interact directly with your pills. Instead, it binds to an enzyme in your intestinal tract, making it easier for the medication to pass from your gut to your bloodstream. Blood levels will rise faster and higher than normal, and in some cases, the abnormally high levels can be dangerous. A small amount of grapefruit, even ingested hours before taking the medications, can increase the amount of the drug metabolized, which is like taking many doses at once. The toxic effect can build when the drug is taken repeatedly. For example, if the cholesterol-lowering drug Zocor is combined with a 7-ounce glass of grapefruit juice once a day for 3 days, the drug in the bloodstream will increase 330%. Even small amounts of grapefruit or grapefruit juice have the potential to cause sudden death, acute kidney failure, respiratory failure, gastrointestinal bleeding, and other serious side effects when paired with certain medications. Citrus fruits, such as limes and Seville oranges, often used in marmalade, also contain the same active ingredients that cause the dangerous interactions. So in some cases, it's not just grapefruit juice that's the problem. According to the review article published November 26th, more than 85 drugs may interact with grapefruit. 43 of these can have some serious side effects. Some of the commonly used drugs that can interact with grapefruit include certain cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, such as Zocor, Lipitor, Prevacol, and Mevacor. Some blood pressure-lowering drugs, such as Coreg or Carvedilol. Organ transplant rejection drugs. Painkillers, such as oxycodone. Certain cardiovascular drugs. Anxiety and insomnia drugs like Valium, Halcion, Versed, Buspar, and Zoloft. And estrogens interact with grapefruit. Drinking grapefruit juice while taking estrogens might increase estrogen levels and side effects associated, such as breast cancer. Caffeine interacts with grapefruit. Drinking grapefruit while taking caffeine might increase the side effects of caffeine, including jitteriness, headaches, and a fast heartbeat. The antibiotic erythromycin interacts with grapefruit. And warfarin, also known as Coumadin, used to slow blood clotting, interacts with grapefruit. So drinking grapefruit juice might increase the effects of warfarin or Coumadin and increase the chances of bruising and bleeding. Because people older than 45 are the major buyers of grapefruit and or more likely than younger individuals to take a variety of medications, they are most at risk. Also, because as we age, our kidneys and liver, the two organs responsible for clearing waste from our bodies, can be compromised, therefore increasing the odds of harmful reactions to grapefruit and drug combinations. So taking one tablet with a glass of grapefruit juice is like taking 20 tablets with a glass of water. This is unintentional overdosing. So it's not surprising that these levels go from what we call therapeutic to toxic. If you or a loved one is in the hospital, keep a watchful eye on their menu card, know what medications you or they are taking, and always ask about side effects and food interactions. You may not be taking a medication right now that interacts with grapefruit juice, but perhaps a newly prescribed drug may be problematic. It simply is not smart to expect your doctor, your nurse, or your dietary staff to make you aware of this. Also, the same advice applies if you're not in the hospital. If you're taking any medications at all, ask your doctor or call your pharmacist and inquire about each drug you take. Ask, does this medication interact with grapefruit juice or anything else? And to be even more proactive, you can find a drug interaction checker at the website. It's on the free stuff page at the speakupandstayalive.com website. And remember, each time you are prescribed a new medication, ask, does this interact with grapefruit? Don't expect others to look out for every single nuance of your care. It's up to you to remain safe, and that's why I'm here. And with that, let's hear some legal news you can use. When it comes to healthcare safety and just life in general, we can't be expected to be the expert of all things. That's why we need to have resources, people to help us when we enter unknown areas, especially when it comes to legal matters. So for the next 2 minutes, meet David King, an attorney from Schraff & King, located on Somme Center Road in Willoughby Hills, Ohio. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me, Pat.
David, this might sound like a silly question, but what is an attorney and why do we need one?
Well, that's not a silly question. An attorney is a person educated to assist people professionally in resolving legal problems, providing advice and services with respect to legal issues, and representing them before courts and government agencies. Why does somebody need an attorney? Well, the old adage that an ounce of protection is worth a pound of cure would probably be the answer to that question, but I actually prefer what an attorney I first worked for told me early on, which is it is cheaper to stay out out of trouble than it is to get out of trouble. And I think that's probably a good piece of advice for just about anybody. Much or most of what we do in our daily lives is regulated to some extent by laws. There's constitutional law, there's statutory law, there's administrative law, and then there is common law, which are the decisions handed down by the courts. Navigating through those laws in our daily lives is best done with the assistance of an attorney.
How should our listeners go about choosing an appropriate attorney to help guide them and get the answers they need regarding their health care issues?
That's a great question. Choosing an attorney is, in my opinion, every bit as important as the advice that you get from the attorney. There are obviously a variety of services available to help locate attorneys and to locate attorneys in the particular area of law that your issue falls within. There, of course, is the Internet, websites, search engines. There's the old-fashioned way of looking through the yellow pages. But in my opinion, the best way is to ask others that you trust. The attorney-client relationship is one built on trust, so ask those that you trust, your friends, your family members, co-workers, employers, other professionals that you work with, who they would recommend. And then do your research. Interview your attorney. Make sure that they're familiar with the issues that you come to them with and that they are experienced in handling those types of issues.
How can our listeners find out more about you and Schraff & King?
We can be contacted at 440-585-1600 and on our website at www.schraffking.com.
Thank you for taking the time to be with us today, David.
Thanks, Pat. It was a pleasure.
After the show, be sure to visit the website, speakupandstayalive.com, for more life-saving information. Plus, that's where you can purchase the book, Speak Up and Stay Alive, The Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide. Bring the book to the hospital with you. It's the best way to stand out, and in a positive way. And remember, we donate 2 handmade pillowcases to either a troop member in Afghanistan or to a local veterans shelter for every book sold, with your name on it as the donor. So for a mere $20, you benefit, and so does some well-deserving warrior. And with the holidays around the corner, don't send the routine shirt that doesn't fit or some stinky cologne. Give a meaningful and useful gift that really says, I care. Give the gift of healthcare safety. Purchase the book, the patient safety logs, and throw in some of those icebreaker cards. It's a one-size-fits-all present that everybody needs. You can order online at speakupandstayalive.com, or you can request by email at speakupandstayalive.com, or call me 440-725-5462. And now, back to the show. You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, and I'm so happy to once again have one of my favorite guests with us today, Dr. Chuck Gerba, a professor and microbiologist at the University of Arizona in Tucson. Also known as Dr. Germ, he is considered the world's leading expert on infectious disease and has published several toilet papers. I pulled that off from, I think you said that yourself, didn't you?
Yes, I sure did.
There you go. I'm checking up on you. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you.
Well, last time you were here, you took us on a tour of the germs that we might encounter during a normal day. And today, if you don't mind, I'm hoping you will indulge our playful side and play Dr. Germ's word association.
Doctor, give me the news. Is
that okay?
Sure, that sounds great.
All right. So here's how it goes. Joe will read a word or two. Bob will say the first thing that pops into his mind, and so will I. And hopefully we won't be too far off the mark. And then you can share a bit about that word and what it should mean to us as far as staying safe and healthy. Ready, Joe?
All right, sure am. Laundry.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think of underwear.
Ooh, well, I think of bleach.
Well, both of those are good topics. I think of underwear, too, because that's probably the germiest piece of clothing in the laundry machine. Believe it or not, the average pair of underwear has about one peanut worth of fecal material in it on average, at least for adults. And when you put your undergarments in a laundry load, you have a couple of tablespoons of fecal material, and usually maybe about 1 million fecal bacteria in that laundry load. And unfortunately, because we use cold water today, and we don't use bleach like we should for our undergarments, many of these bacteria, and even if viruses are present, survive. And they get transferred between the clothing. So it's a good idea not to wash your handkerchiefs with your underwear, because you might end up blowing your nose in what was in your underwear.
Oh, my gosh. It took me a month to get my hair cut, and now I'm just, okay. Anyway. All right, next word. Cell phones.
Oh, what do you think of, Bob?
I think of radiation.
I don't know what I think of. I don't like cell phones. What do you say, Chuck?
Well, most people are really talking dirty, and they really don't realize it, because one of the germiest things we find are cell phones. Why? Because nobody ever cleans them or disinfects them. So bacteria tend to build them up. Now, if you're the only one talking on the cell phone, it's probably not an issue, but if you're sharing it with other people, and we notice that happens a lot with teenagers, you can also share germs like MRSA, which causes skin infections. We do find that on cell phones occasionally.
Oh, great. Shopping carts.
Oh, one of the germiest things you'll run across in the day in public is a shopping cart. In our studies, somewhere between 60 and 80% of shopping carts in the northern latitudes of the United States have E. coli on them. Now, they get there probably from raw meat products, raw food products, and also baby bottoms. You have to remember where you're going to put your broccoli. Some kid's baby bottom was in the last load that went there. Again, nobody cleans or disinfects them. Now, there was a recent study that showed that children are at increased risk of getting certain types of bacterial infections like salmonella and campylobacter, which cause diarrhea, if they ride in shopping carts. So it's a good idea if your grocery store has those disinfecting wipes to use it on that cart before you put any kid there.
So those wipes really do a good job. We should all be using those wipes.
Oh, yes. I think in shopping carts, the evidence is there that they get pretty germy because they just don't get cleaned.
Sure. What else, Joe?
Schools.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think of sick kids.
Schools. I think schools are usually pretty smelly to me. What do you say, Chuck?
Well, I can't disagree with any of those. But in our studies, the germiest areas in schools, interesting enough, are a kid's desk. That's where we find most of the cold viruses that cause diarrhea, is a child's desk. And then the pencil sharpener, because all the kids are going to the pencil sharpener all the time. And then computer equipment, sinks and that in the room. It's kind of interesting. We've done studies where we disinfected the kid's desk at the end of every school day. And we found out we reduced absenteeism by about 50%.
Wow.
So just disinfecting a kid's school desk seems to play a big role. And kids' classrooms stay fairly germy until they get about the 5th or 6th grade, and then they start cleaning up. I think suddenly they reach puberty and hygiene means something to them, and so the classrooms generally get a little bit cleaner after that age.
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about that. So probably the younger, like kindergarten and first grade, where they don't even think about hygiene, that's probably more germy.
Yeah, right. Smelling starts to make a difference, I think, to other people when you're in the 5th or 6th grade.
Absolutely.
All right, hospitals.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think of dirty floors.
Well, I think of sick people.
Well, hospitals actually really try to make an effort to control the spread of germs. Actually, they heavily use disinfectants. And in our studies, the cleanest public restrooms we find are in hospitals, probably because they so routinely use disinfectants in the hospitals. Of course, one of the big issues today in hospitals is the spread of infectious disease, particularly antibiotic-resistant bacteria in hospital. So they make a major effort in germ warfare today in hospitals to try to control that spread. So that's why hospitals smell like disinfectants a lot, because it's a real effort to keep germs under control in hospitals.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, offices.
Ooh, what do you think of, Bob?
I think of computers.
And I think of telephones.
You're both good when it comes to knowing where the germs are. Most of the germs we find are on telephones, again. People don't clean them. Desks come in number 2 because we found most people don't clean a desk till they start sticking to it, because janitor crews won't touch it, personal space, and then your computer and computer mouse get pretty bad. Then you got to jump to your coffee prep area in an office. That gets pretty bad. They are basically unregulated restaurants, and they get pretty germy over the day, and then people use sponges and dishcloths to clean up, and bacteria like E. coli grow in those, and they spread all around that kitchen area. In fact, in our studies where we trace virus movement through offices, viruses usually end up at the beginning of the day in the coffee food prep areas, because everybody runs in there to get a cup of coffee right away and pick up a few germs on the way.
And sometimes you see those coffee cups and they're so stained, and then when they do clean them, they probably grab one of those 3-month-old sponges, and who knows what's going on.
That's what usually happens is in fact, about half of the coffee cups we tested had fecal bacteria in them. In fact, the higher up you were in the administrative chain in a facility, the more likely you would have E. coli in your coffee cup. But we thought for sure the secretaries were washing their boss's cup out in the toilet. But what was really happening, they were wiping them with sponges and rags to clean them out and just putting E. coli that was growing in the sponges in the coffee cup.
Wow, Joe is in there just shaking it. He just can't get away from this.
I'm wiping stuff down as we speak.
Seriously, Chuck, he's got a bleach wipe right now in his hand.
Well, that's good. It keeps germs from spreading around. Actually, some people that are really clean are the germiest because they just spread things around in a dirty cloth. So cleaning up it makes you get rid of the dirt, but it doesn't necessarily get rid of the germs.
Well, that's right. We always say one wipe per swipe, so you don't want to reuse that over and over. So.
Well, that's a good motto.
Yay, you can use it.
Except for toilet paper.
Yes.
All right, the next one is airplanes.
Well, what do you think of, Bob?
I think of being confined.
Yeah, and I think of those tray tables.
Confined is one thing to really think about first, particularly if you have to use the restroom, because there's about 50 people per toilet unless you're flying a discount airline. Then you're up to, 75 people per toilet. And they get pretty germy at the end of a flight. Why? Because it's hard to wash your hands, hard for a large man to get his hands in the sink. The water shuts off. So you get a good layer of E. coli in those toilets by the end of a long flight from what we see. The next germiest thing in that airplane is the tray. I mean, there's no standards for disinfecting or cleaning airplanes. So we've been able to find influenza virus on these trays, MRSA, which causes skin infections, noroviruses, which causes diarrhea. So I often try to leave the tray up rather than taking it down, because there may have been dozens of people who have used that same tray and it's never been disinfected or cleaned properly.
I agree with you. I bring a baggie of bleach wipes and wipe things down, but I do just what you said. I never open that tray up because you just don't know what was going on there.
No, unfortunately, we don't really have any standards for cleaning them. If you just go to a regular airport today, they turn those planes around fairly rapidly, just pick up the trash.
Absolutely. And I think I read somewhere about you that you had taken a strobe light to shoot time-lapse photograph of a flush. Was that in an airplane?
Oh, no, we actually did it in the toilet. We did time-lapse photographs like a sneeze, how you've seen them sneeze with the spray. We kind of did a toilet sneeze, I guess, where we did time-lapse photograph, and you can see all the droplets coming out of a toilet when you flush it. It looks kind of like the 4th of July.
Oh, especially in an airplane because, there's such a tiny little room.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. Well, you're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, and we are in the middle of a fun game called Dr. Germ's Word Association with our guest and good sport, Dr. Chuck Gerba, a professor and microbiologist from the University of Arizona. He's sharing lots of little-known secrets about bacteria, where they hide, and how we can survive them. Do we have some more, Joe?
Yeah, it's so fun. You guys are giving me so many phobias right now. Restaurants is the next word.
Restaurants. What do you think of, Bob?
I think of menus and how dirty they are.
Yeah, and I think of this dirty silverware.
Menus, I swear a lot of places I go to, I stick to the menu because I don't think they clean them enough. But menus get pretty bad, and so do the children's high chairs, because of multiple use by them. But one of the things we found out that a lot of the sponges and cloths that they use in restaurants contain a lot of germs, even though they're supposed to soak them in disinfectants. And we've done studies where we ask somebody to wipe the table before we eat on it in a restaurant, and they usually end up putting E. coli on it for us, what we've noticed. So it's not a good idea to ask them to wipe it before you're going to eat, from what we've seen in our studies.
Oh, Joe's just shaking his head.
My stomach has done a couple flips here. Antibacterial gels.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think of gas pumps where they're actually putting them on the side of there now to use for the hands.
And I think of it as being a backup to hand washing.
Yeah, I think one of the greater inventions has been the alcohol gel hand sanitizers, because they're certainly as effective as hand washing in reducing your probability of diseases. Studies have shown that by using them properly, you can reduce your risk of getting common infections like colds and flus by about 30 to 50%. So I think they're really good, and you can take them everywhere. I mean, any day you run the germ gauntlet, like we've been talking about, hand sanitizer is always your best defense, because so many common infections are transmitted by your hands. You as an adult will bring your fingers to your face about 16 times per hour, but a child under 2 will do it 81 times an hour. And you put the viruses right where they want to be, the eyes, nose, mouth. Well, your hand, say, is the best friend the germ ever had.
Bring out the antibacterial gels.
All right, next word is toothbrush.
What do you think of, Bob?
For some reason, dentist comes into my head.
Of course. And I think of the bathroom sink.
I always think of how far I need to keep it away from the toilet so I don't get hit by the spray when I flush it, because I don't want to brush my teeth with what I thought I flushed down the toilet.
So maybe keep it in a drawer or something. Yeah,
keep it in a drawer, but I would certainly keep it at least 4 or 5 feet away from the toilet, because that's how far the spray out of the toilet goes.
People sometimes don't think about changing their toothbrush regularly.
Yeah, it's recommended that you do that on a regular basis, at least once every 1 to 3 months.
Okay. Everyone buy some new toothbrushes today.
Hairbrush is the next one.
We know what Joe thinks of. Tell us, what do you think of, Joe?
Me?
Yeah.
MRSA.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of, Bob?
I think of barbershops.
Yeah, and we spoke about the MRSA on the last show, so Joe went weeks and weeks without a haircut. You guys should see him.
5 weeks.
What do you say, Chuck?
Well, MRSA is a good one. In our study of hairbrushes looking for MRSA, we found about 30% of hairbrushes contain MRSA. And interestingly enough, like couches where hair and skin might accumulate, you often find MRSA in public facilities and that. So, yeah, hairbrushes, I'm more worried about MRSA. I certainly wouldn't share hairbrushes for that reason.
Any concern in barbershops and beauty salons and those type of things?
You know, that's a question I never thought about. I should actually test some of those. I don't know what they do with what do they do with the combs anyway?
Well, there's that barbicide they're supposed to put it in, and then I guess they really shouldn't put their fingers into the liquid, because they might have bacteria on their hands and then cross-contaminate the barbicide.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because there's always the potential of transmitting, apparently, MRSA that way.
Yeah.
Well, when you do that, call me, and we'll come down and go together.
Okay.
Here's a big one. Cryptosporidium.
Ooh, big words. What do you think of, Bob?
I think of water parks.
And I think of diarrhea.
You're all right. Actually, Cryptosporidium caused the largest swimming-associated water park outbreak ever in upstate New York, where several thousand people got Cryptosporidium. It's a parasite that's resistant to chlorine, actually. And it causes, if untreated, about a week of diarrhea. So you get a good experience from doing that. But it also caused the largest waterborne outbreak ever documented in the United States in Milwaukee in 1993, where 400,000 people got diarrhea and 100 died. Today it's a problem because of public swimming pools, because it's so hard to kill with chlorine. The number of outbreaks associated with that parasite have been increasing in the United States every year. Every swimmer brings a little bit of poop with them in his gluteal fold, that's your pocket in the back end when you're naked, into the water. So even if you might be feeling all right, you're going to be depositing a little bit of fecal matter. And since the organism can't be killed by chlorine, you got a problem. Now, you know what I look at when I go to swimming pools. I just count the number of people and try to think how much fecal material they put into the pool. So I don't go to many public pools anymore.
We don't either. Joe just looked at me.
You guys are going to just wrap me up in plastic at this point. TV remote's the next one.
What do you think of, Bob?
I think of motels, how dirty they are.
Yeah, the TV remote is seldom cleaned anywhere. People's homes, motels, hospitals, everywhere.
You're right. In testing of hotel rooms, the TV remote always won, because nobody ever cleaned it or disinfected. I even find E. coli on it. Obviously, there's places I never thought of scratching with the TV remote before, based on what I found on it. But that is usually the worst. You know, and sometimes the glasses in the hotel room are bad, because they might just wipe them out. I'm more a favor of disposable cups in hotel rooms. I think that's probably a better idea than glasses. And then the phone sometimes gets pretty bad in hotel rooms.
Oh, and bedspreads, just everything. We need to stay home, guys.
All right, here's the device that helps us to clean. Vacuum cleaners.
Oh, what do you think of, Bob?
I think of the filter bag, how you try to have to empty it. It's not too clean.
I think of dust mite.
Vacuum cleaners actually can spread microorganisms around, because of the brush. Mm-hmm. And the filter will scatter things. And there's been 2 outbreaks in hotels where it was the vacuum cleaner was believed to be the source of spreading a virus that causes diarrhea in the hotels. But the thing to think about as a homeowner is that when you vacuum everything up, you collect all the food in the carpeting, all the bacteria, you collect E. coli, salmonella, which causes diarrhea, and now you put them in heaven with all this food that was in your carpeting, and they grow like crazy in there. So it was not uncommon in our studies to find salmonella and E. coli in the dust and vacuum cleaner. So if you don't have one of those sanitary bags where you can take it out and it seals it and you can throw it away, don't empty it near your kitchen sink or anywhere in the kitchen because you're going to get a cloud of E. coli coming out of it from what we've seen. And you want to make sure when you do empty it, if you don't have the bag disposable type, is to wash your hands afterward. Don't let the dog near it.
Oh, I never thought of any of that. But that makes such good sense. You've got all that food in the bag.
She makes me carry it out to empty it. She never empties it.
I'm so smart, right?
Yeah, she is smart.
All right, this one's a little bit bigger of not really word associations. It's going to get more than what we bargained for here. Germiest job and least germiest job.
Oh, what do you think, Bob?
I think the germiest job might be a nurse, and the least germiest might be a financial planner.
Oh, I don't even know where to go with that. What do you say, Chuck?
School teachers win hand down. They have the germiest desks and offices of any profession we've ever studied, 20 times more than anybody else. Cleanest are lawyers, because I think they're all out playing golf all the time, I guess. They're not in their office.
They're not in their office, are they?
Yeah. Second to teachers are accountants and bankers. I think because they spend all their time at the desk counting dirty money or something. I don't know. But they're number 2 and 3, and everybody else is in between.
They're laundering the money, right?
Yeah, I guess, or they should be.
Oh, this is so fun. Let me ask you a question, Chuck. What are you working on now? What is your newest project?
Well, we're studying the microbiology of negligées and other fine fabrics. People don't really wash them or hand wash them or cleaning them enough. Although my wife said to me, she said, they only get to wear it for about 4 or 5 minutes anyway. It doesn't really get that dirty. So I don't know. But from what we've seen, they do get dirty. Fine fabrics, because only 5% of the American people use hot water anymore. They're afraid to use them on these fabrics. So we're trying to see new ways to clean these without ruining those types of fine fabric clothing.
That's interesting. I never thought of that because, you're just washing them very lightly with Woolite and many times maybe even in your bathroom sink or your kitchen sink. Who thinks of that?
But there's room, I think, for new types of products that might be more conducive to use with fine fabric.
Right. Oh, thank you for playing our game today with us. It was very enlightening. Do you have any final words of advice for us or for our listeners today?
Well, even though I talk a lot about germs, and you hate to tell people to become overly paranoid, but really what the issue comes down to is just practice good hand hygiene, disinfect just key surfaces, and gosh, please wash your laundry a little longer in hot water.
Absolutely. So much information. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure to have you here. You always have so much information to share, and hopefully you will come back again soon.
Sure, thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Sure, take care.
We interrupt our program to bring you a special broadcast.
I'll get more dum-dum-dum-dummy than I ever got from you.
Let's spend the next 2 minutes with our resident cleaning and infection preventionist, Daryl Hicks, consultant and author of the book, Infection Prevention for Dummies. Welcome to the show, Daryl.
Good to be here, Pat.
Daryl, can you identify the enemy? What are some of the basic bugs our listeners should know about?
We live in a world with millions and billions and trillions of microorganisms, but only a small portion of them, less than 5%, are disease-causing, and those are called pathogenic organisms. Some of those of particular interest are bacteria, and bacteria can be in many forms. The ones that we're interested in hospital healthcare, but also out there in the community, is MRSA. That's the methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and MRSA is big in the news because it's not just in the hospitals anymore. It's in the local gym, other areas. The shopping cart handle, you have to think about where those bacteria are, but MRSA is one of the big ones. This time of the year, it's the viruses, and I know that they're predicting this year to be a big year for norovirus. It's often referred to as the cruise ship virus. When you hear about passengers on a cruise ship getting ill, it's from a gastroenteritis norovirus. So it is very active this time of year. And then you've got your common flu and colds. Rhinovirus is the common cold. But those are the two big groups, the bacteria and the viruses. Viruses never die. CDC hidden stores below the ground in Atlanta in a vault where people work is high security area, but they still have the 1918 Spanish flu live virus that is there, along with a lot of other viruses that if they got out could be a catastrophe for human health. Viruses never die. They will mutate and grow into other things.
That is some amazing news. So awareness is the key and knowing what to do to stay safe.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Daryl. How can we learn more about you and your book, Infection Prevention for Dummies?
My website is www.darrelhicks.com. That is Darrell, DARRELHICKS.com. You can find out how to get in touch with me or order the book there.
Well, thank you, Daryl. I encourage our listeners to check out your website and your book, and your blog has lots of excellent information. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Pat.
I get more from that dumb dummy than I ever got from you. Yeah, I get more from a dummy than I get from you.
This is your favorite show, Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio, and I am your hostess, Pat Rulo, where the boys and I work hard to keep you informed and safe from any healthcare and hospital encounter. And with a statement like that, you just know that it's time to play the most requested radio game show of all time, everybody's favorite game,
Fear the Wheelchair.
Well, by now you know that a hospital wheelchair is a high-touch, highly contaminated vehicle capable of spreading infections all over the place. So the wheelchair is now this show's representation of all hospital dangers, kind of like our mascot. So here we go, the best game ever.
Fear the Wheelchair.
Listen, as Joe reads some right or wrong statements, and then even though I can't hear you, shout out your answer along with Bob. Is the statement right? Or is it wrong? Joe?
All right, here we go. Right or wrong, drug interactions can be caused by weakened kidney and liver function.
What say you, Bobby?
I think that's wrong.
Ooh, no, Bob. That is right. And while it is not the single cause, remember, those two organs are responsible for clearing drugs from our body. So if they don't work as well as they should, those drugs can linger longer. This is something you should keep in mind if you or your loved one is taking any kind of medication that might contribute to drug-induced dementia.
All right or wrong, a toilet sneeze can spray droplets of bacteria within 4 to 5 feet of the flush.
What do you think, Bob?
I think that's definitely right.
What do you think, Joe?
Yes, it's right.
We know this, yes. So that tells me to stash my toothbrush and other personal items in a drawer, or at least farther away from the toilet, or just close the lid before you flush.
Right or wrong, consistent assignment means the same person cares for the same patient.
What do you think, Bob?
That's right.
What do you think, Joe?
I can't remember that one.
I can't remember that. Yes, that is right. We talked about this a while back when discussing nursing homes. This is a question you should ask when researching a potential living arrangement. It is so important to both the resident or the patient as well as the caretaker. It helps to establish a meaningful relationship, therefore increasing the quality of care.
Right or wrong, estrogens interacts with grapefruit.
What do you think, Bobby?
I think that's wrong.
What do you think, Joe?
I think it's right.
Oh, Joe's right. Bob's wrong. Buzzer. Drinking grapefruit juice while taking estrogens might increase estrogen levels and side effects such as breast cancer. This applies to birth control pills or hormone replacement therapy. In fact, products for hormone replacement therapy are required by the FDA to carry warnings about grapefruit consumption.
Wow. Right or wrong, makeup can harbor bacteria such as MRSA.
What do you think, Bobby?
Oh, that's definitely right.
What do you think, Joe?
Correct.
Oh,
right.
yes. So don't share makeup, guys. Lipstick, mascara, eyeshadow, don't share it with each other or anyone else. Purchase foundation in tubes so you don't have to double dip your fingers into the jar. Wash your makeup brushes in warm soapy water once a week. Cross-contamination.
I'm only laughing because I'm not going to share my makeup with Bob.
Thank you, Joe.
You guys are cute enough without it.
Right or wrong, you can find a drug interaction checker at the free stuff page at speakupandstayalive.com website.
You guys better get this right.
I guarantee you that's right.
Joe.
That's absolutely right.
Yes, it is right. And I ask that if you are taking anything by mouth, medications, herbal supplements, vitamins, or any other over-the-counter therapies, please visit our interaction checker. You cannot be too safe. Well, remember, the more you know, the safer you'll be. And you heard about it here on Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. Well, thank you guys for playing everyone's favorite game.
Fear the wheelchair.
You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am Pat Rulo, where the boys and I are keeping you safe during any healthcare or hospital encounter. Coming up, what do George Washington and cocaine have in common? Stay in your seat. Today's O Moment is from our friends at the Hospice of the Western Reserve. If you or someone you know has a chronic disease that does not warrant hospice, you'll be interested to spend the next 2 minutes with Karen Vakasi, advanced practice nurse, as we discuss palliative care. Welcome to the show, Karen.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Karen, what is palliative care?
Palliative care focuses on relieving chronic symptoms and preventing patient suffering. It's appropriate for patients in all disease stages who are living with some type of chronic illness. Our palliative care team uses a team approach. Physicians, pharmacists, advanced practice nurses, social workers, and spiritual care coordinators who work together to relieve suffering in all areas of a patient's life. This approach allows the team to address physical, emotional, spiritual, and social concerns that arise with advanced illness, and respect for the patient's culture, beliefs, and values is also an important component.
And what is the goal of palliative care?
The goals of palliative care, which is usually offered in a patient's home, are to provide pain and symptom control and support, to help the patients achieve comfort, and to improve their quality of life. The palliative care team will coordinate the plan of care with the patient's own doctor. Unlike hospice care, patients can continue to receive curative treatments from their doctor while receiving palliative care. Palliative care is available for people in the earlier stages of chronic debilitating illness, when they're not eligible for hospice, but have a deteriorating medical condition and they need help to control their symptoms. Choosing palliative care is a very personal decision. If someone with a chronic illness thinks they may be able to benefit, we recommend they discuss the issue with their primary care physician and family to get their support. However, referrals do not need to be made by a doctor. Anyone can make a referral. At Hospice of the Western Reserve, they can call the referral line at 800-707-8921.
Well, thank you, Karen. To learn more about Hospice of the Western Reserve and the unique range of services it provides as a nonprofit agency, visit hospicewr.org. And once again, thanks, Karen.
Thank you, too.
You're listening to Speak Up and Stay Alive Radio. I am Pat Rulo, your hostess and author of the book Speak Up and Stay Alive, the Patient Advocate Hospital Survival Guide, which is available at our website, speakupandstayalive.com. And if you don't own a copy of this book, you are living dangerously. It goes hand in hand with this radio show. Each week, you pick up new ideas and safety tips as you listen to the show. But what happens if or when you or a loved one is faced with a hospital stay? Are you really going to remember everything you've heard on this show? Probably not. And so the book is your visual, your guide, your reminder of what the hazards are, how and why they happen, and what you can do to survive them. I'm not a medical person, so the book is not written with crazy medical jargon. It's easy to read, yet is packed with years of research and actual experiences that you can use and make your own. And you don't want to wait until you need the information, then it's too late. Order your copy today. I'll even sign it for you and send you 5 icebreaker cards that you can hand to your healthcare providers to ask them to wash their hands before touching you. Order at the website speakupandstayalive.com, or if you don't have access to the internet, call me 440-725-5462. And now for my personal oh moment that I know will cause you to say, oh, I didn't know that. Here's a question. Is your cash contaminated? The average lifespan of a dollar bill is 4.7 years before it's taken out of circulation. That means a single dollar is in and out of wallets, waiters' aprons, deli cash registers, the pockets of teenagers' seldom washed jeans, in doctors' offices and hospitals, and the bank teller who licks her finger to separate the bills while counting. Countless anonymous fingers have handled your dollars, and it's not just fingers. Think of some other interesting places people stash money next to their bodies. Yikes! Because money constantly goes in and out of your wallet, it can pick up germs as it changes hands. Bacteria can live anywhere from a few hours to several weeks on dry surfaces. Sweat, moisture, humidity, and other variables in how cash is stored and transferred can affect contamination. Consider the hot dog vendor, hands juggling wet sodas, beef, and condiment containers, then stashing those damp dollars into a dank, dark apron. And scientists say a flu virus can live on money for approximately an hour. However, should the virus mix with nasal mucus, it could live up to 17 days on paper bills. I'm not sure how nasal mucus can find itself on money, but we'll just leave it to the imagination. Hey, Joe, do you think people stash cash up their noses? Researchers from the Wright-Patterson Medical Center in Dayton, Ohio, asked people standing in line at a grocery store checkout and at a high school concession stand to trade a $1 bill from their pocket for a new one. Then the doctors analyzed 68 of those old, worn bills. 5 of the bills contained bacteria that can cause an infection in perfectly healthy people, and 59 of them, yep, that's 87%, were contaminated with bacteria that could cause an infection in anyone with a compromised immune system, such as people with HIV or cancer. Only 4 of the bills were relatively clean, with just traces of yeast and mold. And here's another interesting fact. Paper currency is a good conduit of cocaine. A 2009 University of Massachusetts study that tested 234 banknotes from 18 U.S. cities found 90% of the bills tested positive for cocaine. Likely because cash initially dusted in drug deals mingles with innocent bills in banking counting machines. A 2001 study of 10 $1 bills published in Forensic Science International also found 70% contaminated with heroin. However, don't be worried about being busted by the cops. The drugs are deeply embedded in the fibers of the money and do not rub off on people's skin. This leads to the idea of cleaning your purse or your wallet once a week. I suggest that you wipe everything in your purse with antibacterial wipes and throw out the things you don't need. Leave your purse at the door so you don't contaminate your home with what your bag picked up from the environment outside. And hey guys, this goes for you too. Disinfect your wallet. Give it a swipe with your disinfectant wipe. So what's the bottom line? Money is not a major cause of exchange of disease, and you shouldn't worry about it very much. The best way to protect yourself after handling money is to keep your fingers and money out of your mouth. Don't rub your eyes and wash your hands often. But then you knew that I would say that. Just giving you another reason to think about washing your hands. Well, today we talked about medications and interactions, especially with grapefruit and grapefruit juice. Be very mindful during a hospital stay of your menu selections. The menu that is sent to your room may not be the correct diet for you based on your diagnosis or the medications you take. Know those medications, their side effects, and any potential interactions. And our guest, Dr. Chuck Gerba, was so much fun as he indulged us in Dr. Germ's word association. This just shows you that healthcare safety and microbiologist can be fun. I also introduced you to dirty money. Just another reason to think about good hand hygiene. And let me extend a special thank you to some of the wonderful people who helped sponsor this program. Hospice of the Western Reserve, the attorneys at Schraff & King, and Daryl Hicks, Infection Prevention for Dummies. I appreciate their expertise, and I certainly encourage you to support the efforts of these fine folks. And listen next week for more patient safety, surprises, and fun. And remember, you can listen to today's show again and again, or any other show that you missed. Just visit the radio link at the speakupandstayalive.com website. Come back next week and invite your friends. That's next Saturday morning, where you can find us 2 times. Yep, that's twice. From 7 to 8 Eastern on 1420 WHK, and from 9 to 10 Eastern on WHKW. That's AM1220. Or listen live via the internet on WHKradio.com at 7 and WHKWradio.com at 9. I am Pat Rouleau, and I am your guide to safe and successful healthcare and hospital encounters.
The information provided in today's broadcast is for informational purposes only and was not intended for use as diagnosis or treatment of a health problem or as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Participating as a program listener, guest, or caller should not be considered medical advice. References to any entity, product, service, website, or source of information should not be considered as an endorsement. If you missed part of today's show or just want to share the information with friends, you can download a copy of the show at speakupandstayalive.com. That's speakupandstayalive.com. Want even more information? Purchase a copy of Pat's book at the Speak Up and Stay Alive website. Once again, it's speakupandstayalive.com.
This is Pat Rouleau. When you get a chance, become a friend and like us on Facebook. We're called Speak Up and Stay Alive. Then post your questions and comments on our Facebook wall. We may read them next week. Who else do you know who can benefit from this life-saving information? You can keep your group, club, business, or church safe from hospital hazards. I speak live and in person, too. Our events are fun, fast-paced, interactive, and jam-packed with serious information. Your crowd will love it. Just email me at speakupandstayalive.com or call 440-725-5462. Until next week, remember to ask others to wash their hands. You have to speak up and stay alive. Call me, email me.
Survive.